Let me ask you something, and I want you to actually slow down for a moment and really think about this. Not just hear it, but feel it. If your job disappeared tomorrow, what would you do? Not because you failed, not because you were not capable, not because you made a mistake, not because your boss was unhappy with you, but simply because the world changed, because AI replaced part of what you do, because your company restructured and decided your role was no longer necessary. What would you do? Would you panic? Would you feel stuck? Would you spend weeks sending out resumes hoping someone would give you a chance? Or would you already have another path, a path that you built, a path that belongs to you, a path that does not depend on anyone else deciding your worth? This is no longer a hypothetical situation. We are already living in this transition. Right now, AI is moving into work that used to feel deeply human, highly skilled, and relatively safe. It is helping with coding, analysis, customer communication, marketing, legal summaries, and video creation. And slowly, many workflows that once required a team of trained professionals are becoming smaller, faster, and more automated. That is why so many capable people feel the pressure, not because they are failing, but because the structure around their work is changing. And for many people, especially people who have spent years building expertise in their field, this creates a quiet kind of pressure, not loud, not obvious, but it is there, a quiet kind of anxiety. Because deep down you can feel something shifting, and you are not sure what to do about it. And here is the uncomfortable truth. It is not slowing down, it is accelerating. Every 6 months the tools get more powerful. Every year more industries are affected. Every cycle the question becomes more urgent. What is my role in this new world? But here is the part most people miss. At the exact same time, while many people are feeling uncertain, while many people are watching their industries change, and while many people are wondering what comes next, there is another group of people who are actually doing better than ever. They are making more money than they did in their traditional careers. They have more flexibility than they have ever had. They have more control over their time. They choose their clients. They choose their hours. They choose how they work. And most importantly, they are no longer dependent on a single source of income. If one thing changes, they are not destroyed. They have built something that belongs to them. And here is what makes this even more interesting. These people are not running big companies. They are not managing large teams. They are not CEOs with hundreds of employees. Most of them are just one person, working from a laptop, with a few smart tools, and a clear system. So the real question becomes this: what are they doing differently? Because if we understand that, we understand where the world is going, and we can begin to see how to position ourselves in it before the window closes. So let us talk about what is actually happening, because I think a lot of people misread this moment. They see AI and they think this is just another technology trend, like when the internet came along, or when smartphones changed everything. It will be disruptive for a while, then things will stabilize, and most people will be fine. But this shift is different, and here is why. Previous technology revolutions changed the tools people used. This one is changing whether people are needed at all in certain workflows. Think about what AI can do today. It can write a first draft of almost anything. It can analyze thousands of data points in seconds. It can hold a conversation, answer questions, detect patterns, make recommendations, and it can do all of this without taking a break, without needing a salary, without making emotional decisions, and without requiring health insurance. Now, I am not saying this to be pessimistic. I am saying this so we can be honest about what is happening, because the people who do best in a transition are usually the ones who see it clearly and act before everyone else does. So what does this shift mean for you? It means we are entering a completely different kind of economy. This is not just a technology upgrade. This is a structural shift. It is changing how income is created. It is changing how value is delivered. It is changing how individuals can operate in the market. And inside this shift, a new type of player is emerging: the one-person company. What does that mean exactly? It means one individual, using the right tools, using smart systems, and using AI as a partner rather than fearing it as a replacement, can now operate like a full business. In the past, if you wanted to build something that generated real income, you needed a team, you needed capital, you needed infrastructure, you needed months or years of setup time. Now you need leverage, and leverage comes from two things: the right tools and the right structure. Today, one person can create content at scale. One person can reach thousands of clients. One person can build automated systems. One person can generate multiple streams of income. This is already happening all around us. You see people running multiple income channels entirely alone. You see individuals building personal brands that generate more revenue than small companies. You see solo operators building lean businesses that actually outperform bloated traditional organizations. But here is where most people make a critical mistake. They look at this and they think, great, I just need to use AI tools to do more. I will post more content. I will create more. I will produce more output, and more output will equal more income. But that is not how it works, because producing more does not automatically mean earning more. And this is the insight that separates people who thrive in this new economy from people who stay stuck. The real advantage is not productivity. The real advantage is structure, and most people never make that shift. They stay in production mode forever. They keep asking, how do I get more views? How do I grow my audience faster? How do I create more content? And they never stop to ask the deeper question, how do I build something that actually pays me consistently? That shift in thinking changes everything. So before we talk about specific opportunities, we need to clear up one very important misunderstanding, because this causes a lot of confusion, especially in the age of social media. Attention is not income. Content is not a business. Views do not pay your bills. Followers do not pay your mortgage. Engagement does not cover your kids' tuition. You can have 10,000 followers and still struggle financially. You can have a popular YouTube channel and still worry about money at the end of the month. You can have likes and shares and comments and still have zero real income security. I see this all the time. People spend months building an audience, creating content every day, chasing algorithms, trying to go viral, and then they realize, I have attention, but I do not have income. I have visibility, but I do not have a business. And the frustrating part is that nobody told them the difference. So let me tell you the difference right now, because it is simple, but it is everything. There are two types of people building things online right now. The first type creates content. They show up, they share value, they build an audience, and they hope that at some point that audience will turn into money. The second type builds systems. A system is different. A system generates income repeatedly, without requiring you to create something new every single time. A system works even when you are not actively working. A system grows over time as you add more clients and more relationships. That is an income structure. And once you understand this distinction, everything changes. You stop optimizing for visibility, and you start building for consistency. You stop asking, how do I get more people to see my content? And you start asking, how do I build something that pays me whether I post today or not? That shift is the shift that separates the people who struggle from the people who grow. And here is the good news. This is a learnable skill. This is a buildable thing. It does not require genius. It does not require a famous name. It does not require a huge starting audience. It requires a decision, a clear path, and consistent action. Now let us get practical, because I want to talk about where real opportunity exists right now. Not in theory, but in the real market. When you look at income opportunities that work long-term, there are a lot of options. You could do e-commerce, sell products online, build a store, but e-commerce requires inventory. It requires supply chains. It requires constant customer support. It requires significant upfront investment. And the margins can be thin. You could open a restaurant or a physical business, but that requires overhead, staff management, real estate, and the margins in physical businesses are notoriously difficult. You could try to build a startup, raise funding, build a product, scale quickly. But startups have an extremely high failure rate, and they require enormous time and energy before you see any return. Now, none of those are bad options, but they are heavy options. They require a lot of resources to get started, and they carry significant risk. There is one category that is very different from many of these options, and that category is financial planning and financial services. Let me tell you why this is different, and why it represents one of the most significant opportunities available right now. First, let us talk about demand. We are in the middle of one of the largest demographic shifts in modern history. Tens of millions of people in the United States alone are approaching retirement age. They have worked for decades. They have saved money. They have accumulated assets. But here is the problem. Having money and knowing what to do with money are two completely different things. Most people who are approaching retirement have no clear plan. They do not know how to structure their income so it lasts for 30 years. They do not know how to manage the risk of their portfolio when they can no longer afford to lose money. They do not fully understand the tax implications of their decisions, and taxes alone can become one of the biggest hidden costs in retirement. Many people lose more money to taxes than they need to, not because they are doing anything wrong, but because they do not have coordinated guidance. The investment landscape has also become far more complex. Markets are more volatile. There are more financial products than ever before. Interest rates have changed dramatically, and many people, no matter how smart they are in their own field, simply do not have the expertise or the time to navigate all of this alone. So what does this create? Massive demand and relatively limited guidance. Think about that combination. Millions of people who need help, not enough professionals to serve them all. That is the definition of opportunity, and it is not a small window. This demand is going to grow for the next decade, because the population that needs this guidance is enormous, and it is not going away. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, this sounds interesting, but I do not have a finance background, so let's address that directly. Maybe you did not study economics. Maybe you do not think of yourself as a financial expert. Maybe you are in tech, healthcare, real estate, education, or a completely different career, and I hear that. That is a very natural reaction. A few years ago, that concern would have been valid. To enter the financial services industry, you would have needed years of experience, specific credentials, an established network, a lot of capital to get started, and even then, breaking in would have been incredibly difficult. But today, things are different. And this is one of the most important points I want to make. The path to entering this industry has become much more accessible. There is a clear licensing process. You can get licensed through a structured program. There is real training available. Not just reading textbooks on your own, but actual step-by-step guidance that walks you through everything. You learn what you need to know. You learn how to talk to clients. You learn how to build a practice. And most importantly, you do not start alone. This is probably the biggest misunderstanding people have about this industry. They imagine walking into a client meeting knowing nothing, trying to figure it all out by themselves. That is not what this looks like. You step into an existing system, a system that has been built and refined over many years, a system that gives you the training, the tools, the compliance support, the mentorship, everything you need to begin building a real practice. The question is not whether you already have the background. The question is whether you are willing to learn, and whether you are willing to build something over time, because this is not a shortcut. This is not something that pays you next week. This is building something real, something that grows, something that can compound over years. Let me share some examples, because real stories communicate more than any concept. These are not hypothetical examples. These are the kinds of stories I have seen play out again and again. The first story is about a woman who spent years in administrative work. She had a stable job, reliable income. She was good at what she did, but she looked around one day and realized there was no ladder to climb. There was no path to significantly more. She was trading her time for a salary, and that salary was not going to change dramatically no matter how hard she worked. She asked a question that a lot of people are afraid to ask. Can I build a second income? Not as a replacement for her job, not as a gamble, but as something she could build on the side, something that was hers. She started small. She went through the licensing process. She went through training. She started learning how to talk to people about their financial futures. The first month, nothing happened. The second month, nothing happened. She almost stopped. She told herself maybe this was not for her, but she kept going. In the third month, she closed her first deal. It was not a big deal. The commission was modest, but something shifted for her in that moment, because she realized, this works, this is real, this is something I actually did. And from that point forward, she did not stop. Over the following year, she built a consistent stream of additional income, not life-changing overnight, but real and growing. And more importantly, it was hers. It did not depend on her employer. It did not depend on anyone else's decision. It was something she built. The second story is about someone in technology. Senior role, high income by most standards, but also high stress, and a creeping awareness that the industry was changing. He saw what AI was doing to certain roles. He saw layoffs happening at companies he respected. He was not in immediate danger. But he was smart, and smart people do not wait until the danger is obvious. They prepare early. He started studying on weekends, not because he had a lot of free time, he did not, but because he understood that building a second path was worth the investment. 6 months after he started, the thing he had been quietly preparing for happened. Layoffs at his company. His role was eliminated. And here is the difference between him and his colleagues. His colleagues were scrambling, updating resumes, sending applications, hoping something would come through quickly. He was not scrambling in the same way because he already had income coming in from the practice he had been building. That gave him something his colleagues did not have: time, patience, the ability to make a good decision rather than a desperate one. He was not forced to take the first offer that came along. He could evaluate his options and choose what was actually right for him. That is what a second income does. It does not just give you money, it gives you choice. The third story is about someone who was already in real estate. Successful, active clients, building relationships. But he noticed something frustrating about his income. It was transactional. Every deal was a one-time event. You work hard, you close the deal, you get paid, and then you start over. He kept asking himself, is there a way to build something that compounds, something that pays me not just once, but over and over from the same relationships? When he added financial planning to his practice, everything changed. The same clients he was already serving now needed something else from him, something ongoing, something that renewed. His income structure changed from one-time to recurring. And that changes the entire math of your business. You are not starting from zero every month. You are building on what already exists. When people think about building a business, they often picture two extremes. One is traditional employment, where structure exists but freedom may be limited. The other is isolated entrepreneurship, where freedom exists but support is often missing. Neither extreme is ideal, especially in financial services. This is a trust-based and compliance-sensitive profession. The conversations are personal, the decisions are serious, and the responsibility is real. Mistakes can affect not only money, but also trust and reputation. That is why the model matters. The better model is independent with support. You build your own practice, but you do not build it alone. You are not simply waiting for someone to promote you or define your worth. At the same time, you are not left alone trying to figure out training, compliance, systems, client conversations, and business development from scratch. You have mentorship, training, compliance support, systems, community, and people around you who have already walked parts of the path you are beginning. Support matters because it shortens the learning curve. It helps you avoid unnecessary mistakes. It gives you a place to ask questions. It helps you develop confidence. It allows you to grow in a way that is more professional, sustainable, and responsible. That is the model we believe in. Independent, but not alone. Most people, when they hear about solopreneurs and one-person businesses, immediately think, so you do everything yourself. You are completely independent. You never need support. But that is not actually the best model. And people who try to do everything completely alone often hit a ceiling quickly. Here is why. AI tools are incredibly powerful for execution. They can help you create content, analyze data, write communications, build systems. But AI cannot replace experience. AI cannot replace nuanced judgment. AI cannot handle compliance issues. AI cannot build trust with a client sitting across the table from you. And in financial services specifically, mistakes are expensive, not just financially, but in terms of trust and reputation. So the smartest model is not solo. And it is not traditional employment either. It is something in between. It is independent with support. You are not an employee. You are not trapped in someone else's system. You are not capped by someone else's decision about what you are worth. But you are also not completely alone. You have infrastructure behind you. You have training and compliance support. You have a community of people who have done what you are trying to do. You have mentorship from people who have built practices like the one you are building. This model gives you the best of both worlds. The freedom and upside of working for yourself, and the support and safety net of working within a proven system. Now let us talk about income. I want to be careful and transparent here. This is not guaranteed income. This is not fast money. And this is not passive income that appears while you do nothing. This is a professional practice. It takes time, training, effort, consistency, and trust. But when built properly, the income model can be very different from a traditional job. In a traditional job, you usually trade time for money. You work a certain number of hours, you receive a paycheck. If the job stops, the paycheck stops. And in many careers, income growth depends on raises, promotions, company budgets, or someone else's decision. In this business, you are building something different. You are building relationships. You are building trust. You are helping families make decisions that are deeply personal and long-term. Retirement, protection, taxes, college planning, legacy, family security. These are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They are human decisions. AI can provide information. AI can summarize options. AI can help with research, but trust, judgment, empathy, and walking with a family through real decisions still require a human advisor. That is why this income model can become powerful over time. Good financial planning is not usually a one-time conversation. Life changes, markets change, tax laws change, children grow up, businesses evolve, retirement gets closer, protection needs shift. So a family you help today may need guidance again in the future. If you serve them well, that relationship can continue. Over time, income may come from implementation, ongoing relationships, renewals, referrals, and the trust you have built. And here is what makes this different from almost every other type of work. It compounds. The work you do in year 1 does not disappear in year 2. It stacks. Every client you add, every relationship you build, every plan you put in place, all of it adds to what was already there. So the trajectory of this kind of practice looks completely different from a salary. A salary is often flat. You earn roughly the same amount year over year unless you negotiate for more. A compounding practice grows, and the longer you build it, the faster it can grow. That creates a compounding effect. The work you do in year 1 does not simply disappear in year 2. Every client you serve well, every relationship you build, and every plan you help put in place can add to the foundation you already created. As your practice matures, part of the income may become more passive or recurring compared with purely trading hours for dollars. But this does not happen automatically. It requires ethical practice. It requires fiduciary-minded care. It requires doing what is suitable and responsible for the client. It requires patience, consistency, and long-term service. So yes, this model can compound. And yes, it can create increasing passive components over time, but only when it is built the right way, not through shortcuts, not through pressure, not through chasing quick commissions, but through trust, relationships, professional discipline, and serving families well over many years. You are building an income system rooted in human trust that can grow over time and that AI cannot replace. Now I want to talk about timing, because I think timing matters more than most people realize. And I believe this is one of those rare moments when several forces are coming together at the same time. AI is disrupting traditional career paths. Families are facing more financial complexity. Professionals are looking for more control over their future. And the tools, training, and support available today are stronger than they have ever been. That combination creates a unique window. Not because this path is easy, but because the timing is unusually aligned. The need is growing, the technology is more powerful, the licensing path is clearer, the training systems are more structured, and the ability for one committed person to build a professional practice is greater than it used to be. That creates a window of opportunity, but windows do not stay open forever. As more people recognize this opportunity, more people will enter the market. The best time to build is when the window is open, not when everyone else has already walked through it. The people who build practices over the next few years may be in a very different position in 10 years than the people who waited. Now, if the opportunity is real, why do people hold back? After many conversations, I have seen 3 common reasons. The first thing is fear of the unknown. This is a completely different world from what most people have built their identity around. If you have spent 15 years in engineering, nursing, education, or real estate, stepping into something new feels like starting over. It can feel like admitting that what you built does not count anymore. But that is not what this is. The skills you have built matter. The relationships you have built matter. The way you think about problems, the way you communicate, the discipline you have developed, all of it comes with you. You are not starting over. You are adding a new dimension, and in many cases, the expertise you already have makes you a better advisor to the clients you will serve. An engineer who understands financial planning can speak to tech professionals in a way that generic advisors cannot. A healthcare professional who understands financial planning can serve medical families in a way that feels completely different. Your background is not a liability. It is a competitive advantage. The second thing that holds people back is time. I do not have time to add something new. I am already stretched. I am already working full hours. My family needs me. My current job demands a lot, and I understand that. I really do. But I want to ask a different question. How much time are you currently spending worrying about the future, wondering whether your current path is secure, thinking about what would happen if things changed? For most people, the answer is more than they would like. And the irony is that the time you spend worrying about the future could be spent building the thing that solves it. This is not about finding 5 extra hours a day. This is about being intentional with the time you already have. Many of the people who have built real practices started with a few hours on weekends, not full-time commitment, not quitting their job, just consistent small steps in the right direction. The third thing is doubt. What if I am not good enough? What if clients do not trust me? What if I fail? And I want to say something honestly about this. Doubt is normal. Doubt is part of every real thing worth building. The people who never feel doubt are usually not building anything worth having. The question is not whether you feel doubt. The question is whether you move forward despite it. And here is what I have seen consistently. The people who show up, go through the training, sit with their first client, and have their first real conversation about someone's financial future almost always come out of that experience thinking, I can do this. Not because it was easy, but because they did it. And the doing of it is what builds confidence, not the thinking about it. So let me be clear about what this is and what this is not. This is not a shortcut. This is not a way to make fast money this week. This is not passive income that magically appears while you do nothing. This is building something real, something that takes time, something that requires effort, something that requires learning, but something that is yours and something that grows. In the age of AI, a lot of things are going to be replaced. Certain tasks will disappear, certain roles will change, certain industries will look completely different in 10 years, but there are things AI cannot replace. Trust between two people, the relationship between a client and an advisor who has walked with them through difficult decisions, the judgment that comes from real experience. The human element of understanding someone's fears, their goals, their family situation, and their values. That is where this opportunity lives. That is what makes this different from the things that AI will replace. So the question I want to leave you with is simple. Do you keep doing what you are doing? Trading time for money, hoping that your current path holds, hoping that your industry is not affected, hoping that things stay the same? Or do you build something that belongs to you, something that grows while you sleep, something that gives you choices when the world changes? Because the world is going to change. That is not a question. The question is whether you will be ready. If what I have shared today resonates with you, I want to invite you to start a conversation, to understand where you are now, to understand what you are looking for, to help you see whether this is the right path for you, and if it is, to show you exactly how to get started. We have helped people from all kinds of backgrounds, people who came in with no finance experience, people who were burned out from corporate careers, people who wanted a second income without quitting their day job, people who were building for retirement, people who wanted to leave something behind. All of them started with one conversation. And remember this, your biggest asset is not your job. Your biggest asset is not your current salary. Your biggest asset is not your LinkedIn profile. Your biggest asset is your income system. And if you do not have one yet, now is the time to build it. Not next month, not after things calm down, not when life gets less busy, because life does not get less busy on its own. You make it less busy by building something that gives you options. Reach out, start the conversation, we will take it from there. One conversation, that is all it takes to start. And that conversation might be the most important thing you do this year, because a year from now, you will either wish you had started today or you will be glad you did. The choice is yours, and it starts now. This presentation is provided for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended as legal, tax, investment, or financial advice. Becoming licensed in financial services requires meeting applicable regulatory, licensing, training, and compliance requirements. Income is not guaranteed and depends on many factors, including licensing status, effort, training, market conditions, client needs, product suitability, and ongoing professional conduct.